Luffy snatches the Den Then Mousy from Usopp's grasp and begins communicating with Gorosei. He boldly introduces himself as Monkey D. Luffy, the future Pirate King. The other Straw Hat members try to dissuade him from revealing too much, but Luffy is undeterred. He goes on to say that they have a close alliance with Dr. Vegapunk, and if the Gorosei value their safety, they should act swiftly and withdraw their fleet from the shoreline. In the backdrop, cries for help from York can be discerned. Pizarro and other Marine soldiers are covertly listening in on the conversation. The Marines label them as malevolent, shocked at the lengths they'd go to. But it's not just them. Morgan, Vivi, and Walpole are also secretly tuning in from the World Economic Journal headquarters. One of the girls finally breaks the silence, urging, "Speak up." One of the voices challenges, "You're Straw Hat Luffy, aren't you?" The individual then proceeds to inquire about how many are currently with Luffy on the labor phase. True to his nature, Luffy begins to audibly count them, but Robin swiftly intervenes. The call is abruptly terminated. One of the Gorosei, Saint Mars, identifies the voice as Robin's. Robin cautions Luffy, "Speaking directly to the Gorosei will only expose our secrets. It's crucial we withhold as much information from them as possible." Luffy nods in agreement, then poses a question. "But will this make them pull back their fleet?" Usopp retorts, "They'd never do that. You need to face reality and recognize the immense strength of the Marines." Saint Saturn, who wasn't at Marijois, but was with the other 4 elders, is essentially stationed on a ship near the island. Even though he's not present at the main location, he's been privy to the entire conversation. From it, he deduces 3 critical elements they must safeguard. Firstly, they must guarantee the physical well-being of York. Secondly, they have to shield the Punk records, which encapsulate Vegapunk's intellectual contributions. Lastly, they must secure the power plant essential for generating the Mother Flame. Everything else might be expendable, but not these 3 critical assets. Doberman, sharing the ship with Saturn, informs him that Rob Lucci and his team are also present on the island, accompanied by other Cypher Paul agents. Saturn emphasizes that he's preparing for the most dire of circumstances, stressing the need to prioritize. Doberman concurs with his perspective. Saturn likens humans to insects, suggesting that even if their numbers diminish, they'll reproduce once more, especially at the Punk records. York, currently held captive by the Straw Hat Pirates, is inconsolable. Through her tears, she warns them of her agreement with the Gorosei, cautioning that if they harm her, the 5 elders will retaliate by annihilating the entire island, reminiscent of the fate of Ohara. Driven to the edge by York's ceaseless weeping, Nami impulsively strikes her with her Climatact, knocking her unconscious. As York fades into unconsciousness, she threatens Nami, asserting that there will be consequences for her actions and the 5 elders will seek vengeance. However, Nami, undeterred, challenges her to complain even more to the Gorosei, making it clear she's unafraid of their retribution. Robin tells Nami to calm down. Chopper, who is taking care of the injured, Robin asks him if her wounds are better now. She is basically sitting on a chair in the background with Chopper caring for her because she is the most injured Straw Hat pirate. And it is also the reason why she couldn't be seen in the previous episode. Robin exclaims that she's feeling much better. And this is all because of his care. Kohaku also seems injured in the background. What happened the previous day between the fight of Luffy Zoro Lukaku with the Seraphim is still a mystery. Vegapunk Atlas is looking fine and is working on a terminal. While they are worried for Pythagoras, Chaka, and Edison, they come to know that Edison is still alive. Osip requests Lilith to calm down for a bit because he's trying to contact someone. But Lilith is bawling over the status of Vegapunk satellites. 4 are injured and 2 are dead. However, is this really true that Chaka and Pythagoras are dead? We then see Kaku, who asks Lucci that. What is he whispering about? Lucci exclaims that it is just nothing, and he is randomly talking to himself. Mosop finally connects the call and asks that if everything is all right over there. He has contacted the underground basement of Laboratory, where the CP-5, 7, and 8 agents were kept as prisoners by York. Though they are still not freed by the Straw Hat crew for some obvious reasons, but they have been given food. The agents are gushing over food and munching it. Some are saying thanks while others call them their enemies. The agents request the Straw Bats to free them, but they refuse to do that. They then request to at least shift them to a different place because living close to such creatures give them creeps. They are basically talking about the Seraphim who have been caught inside. Lilith Seastone bubbles. Mosop asks the agents that aren't the Seraphim their allies. The agents exclaim that it is not like that. They are afraid that what if the Seraphim get out of control again? Vegapunk exclaims that he can assure their safety as the bubble are made from the same bubble shield used by the pacifists to Mark III. Those bubbles are even resistant to bomb blast. It is made with same properties of the Sea Prism Stone, which makes them effective weapons against Devil Fruit users. The agents calls it amazing and exclaim that they considered it to be normal soap bubbles. The Seraphim are frustrated at being caught inside the bubbles as Snake tells the agents that they don't need to worry about them since they haven't received any orders to eliminate them, and therefore they are of no value for them. The CP agents breathe a sigh of relief. Frankie expresses gratitude to Snake, acknowledging her for reversing the petrification on them. Vegapunk finds the situation puzzling, noting, "It's odd. Her programming shouldn't allow for such actions." Snake recalls Luffy's plea to her to reverse her powers on his comrades, emphasizing that she was their only hope. She had consented, and her fondness for Luffy mirrored that of the real Boa Hancock. Jinbei observes her behavior, remarking, "She's the spitting image of Boa Hancock, looking down on everyone but Luffy." He finds it amusing that the Seraphim, modeled after the genuine Boa Hancock, possesses the same emotional inclinations. Vegapunk finds this revelation intriguing, musing that these emotions might be fragments of data transmitted via the lineage factor during the cloning procedure. Luffy thanks Snake once again. Atlas tells Vegapunk that although the system is working fine, but she is still unable to open the Frontier Dome. Vegapunk exclaims that they cannot escape from Punk Records until they disable the barrier. York calls their efforts useless as she locked everything with a password, and one worse news is that she didn't share the data with their brains, and now she is not willing to tell it either. Atlas is extremely annoyed with her. York calls the password and the world government her two armors that protect her. Stussy exclaims that they are surrounded from all sides. The fleet comprises of 100 ships and nearly 30,000 Marines on board. Vegapunk turns to Nami and asks her that, is she the navigator of the crew? Nami affirms. She then gazes at the log poles and the compasses and exclaims that it is not pointing to a new destination yet, but she assumes they can follow the directions it recorded in Ueno. She tells them that one of the compasses is pointing northeast from there. Vegapunk exclaims that it is where the album is. Luffy and Usopp are excited to hear that they are finally going to Elba off the Island of Giants that they have been dreaming to go even since they both can be seen in their own world. Extremely elated to go there, while Stussy tells Lucy to stop staring at her. Vegapunk exclaims that it is good their ship is already on the labor phase stratum. But since the island is surrounded completely by a marine blockade, it is almost impossible for them to safely escape from the coast. Vegapunk tells them the whole plan that they need to follow. They first need to go northeast to the other side of the island. The Vega Force One's proximity to their ship is a stroke of luck. Vegapunk is optimistic that it can navigate them past the marine blockade. However, there's a hitch. The Vega Force One can only maintain flight within Egghead's airspace and will plummet once it exits the island's aerial boundary. Frankie, ever the problem solver, assures them that's not an issue. Thousand Sunny can take over just before Vega Force One exits the airfield range. He confidently adds that once they're a kilometer away from Punk Records, no one will be able to pursue them. Vegapunk is taken aback by the revelation of Thousand Sunny's flight capabilities. With this strategy in mind, they agree to proceed. Atlas acknowledges the ingenuity of their plan, but points out a crucial detail. Someone has to deactivate the Frontier Dome for us to make our getaway. York exclaims that they will not get the password from her. Vegapunk starts working on the terminal and exclaims that the final option is to hack the password, and York should not underestimate the great Vegapunk. Vegapunk leaves the command of Vega Force One to Lilith. The plan to escape the Egghead Island has started in full swing. First, they need to move the ship to the other side of the labor phase. For this, Luffy, Bonnie, Lilith, and Frankie are rushing out of there to do this. Lilith exclaims that they need to hurry as the barrier might open any time now. Though disabling the barriers means they could escape, but it also makes them vulnerable to their enemies' attacks while they are rushing. Lilith tells them that she had never left the island before. They start talking about the food that they are going to miss while Frankie tells them that they are not going on a picnic. Bonnie and Luffy have a sweet banter. Bonnie exclaims that she feels better now as she has given up on killing Vegapunk. They make her crying from the previous night. It is then revealed that earlier Lucci was not talking to himself, but he actually was trying to contact someone through the Den Den Muchi. Rob Lucy has actually made contact with the government. But why is he so loyal to the government, even after whatever happened is still a mystery? The government has come to call what is happening inside of the dome and orders to relay this information to everyone at once. Saturn asks Bizarro. That does he heard it? Bizarro exclaims. That straw hat was talking arrogantly, believing that he has control over the whole situation and can deceive them. But the fact is that they are still cornered like rats. Saturn exclaims that as far as he knows, the Frontier Dome is a defense system that uses lasers. He asks Bizarro that can't he infiltrate it as he is a light? Human Bizarro replies that it is possible for him, but the one Vega punk that guarding the dome is his friend. Saturn tells him that he needs to ignore his friend. Cesare replies that he cannot ignore a man who is determined to fight for his duty, as doing this will go against his ideals. Pizarro further mentions that starting with the assault now will cause Sentomaru to order the Sea Beast weapons, and the pacifist does under his command to sink their fleet. In this case, the casualties would be enormous. Saturn holds his head with his hand, calling the situation extremely complicated, and asks him about the location of the power plant. Pizarro tells him that Lucy is a cunning fellow, and he has already leaked all the information they need. All the marine ships are ready to sail for the battle. The Vice Admiral is there, gives some important orders. The first one is to tell the Rock Hoshiki users to be on standby as their assault will begin soon. Second is to free all CP-0 agents from the pirates. The third thing is that the total bombardment units must remember that bomb blasts don't work on the pacifist, as they must aim for the Mecha Sea Beast weapons. Lilith and her group has reached near the Vega Force 1. Luffy exclaims that he is in awe of the Sky Island grounds, but Frankie reminds him to not forget their goal. They have arrived at the Thousand Sunny, and now they need to perform their task quickly. Pizarro, who has reached outside the punk records, is preparing to infiltrate the dome. He uses his Yata no Kagome technique and transforms himself into a light human. Therefore, he transports himself on the island with the speed of light by crossing past all the sea beasts. But Santa Maria was already aware of him showing up there, and therefore he quickly orders the pacifist units to exterminate all the enemies. Pizarro tells Sentomaru to prepare for the battle, while Sentomaru exclaims that his defense is the strongest in the world. A fight kicks in between Sentomaru and Caesar through Luffy, who is at the labor phase. Stratum suddenly sees light coming from below and concludes that someone extremely strong has arrived.